Have you ever looked out a plane window and wondered, why isn't there a parachute under my seat? It feels like a simple question. If something goes wrong, you should be able to jump to safety. The idea is powerful. It seems like common sense. But the truth is not what you see in movies. Commercial planes do not carry parachutes for passengers. This is not because airlines are cheap. It is because parachutes would make flying more dangerous, not less. The real reasons are surprising, and they tell a story about physics, human nature, and the incredible safety of modern air travel. The core belief is easy to understand. We see parachutes as a backup plan, a safety net. If the main plan, which is the airplane landing safely, fails, we want another option. This thought comes from a place of fear, the fear of being high in the air with no control. People imagine a single catastrophic failure where jumping is the only way out. But the reality of an aircraft emergency is very different. Aviation is built to keep everyone inside the plane until it is safely on the ground. A deliberate choice, based on decades of experience, science, and what truly keeps passengers safe. Why do so many people believe parachutes are a good idea for passenger planes? One of the biggest reasons is Hollywood. We have all seen the movie hero strapping on a parachute, kicking open a door, and jumping into the wind as an explosion happens behind them. It is a thrilling scene. It makes a parachute look like an easy-to-use escape pod. These images stick in our minds. They create a false idea that jumping from a high-speed jet is a normal and survivable event. Another reason comes from what we might call backyard logic. People think about problems in simple terms. If you are on a sinking ship, you use a lifeboat. So if you are on a failing plane, you should use a skyboat, a parachute. This comparison seems to make sense, but it misses key details. A ship moves slowly on water. A plane moves at hundreds of miles per hour through the air. Getting off a sinking ship is difficult. Getting out of a jet at cruising altitude is nearly impossible for an untrained person. The do-it-yourself spirit says, I could figure it out. How hard can it be to pull a cord? But a parachute is not a simple device. Using it correctly requires training and a calm mind, from harness fit to exit, body position, and canopy control. Let's look at the actual numbers. Flying on a commercial airline is one of the safest activities you can do. Your chance of being in a fatal accident on a major airline is incredibly small, something like 1 in several million. You are far more likely to be injured in a car on your way to the airport than in the plane itself. Road accidents kill tens of thousands every year. Major airline accidents are rare and make international news. Most incidents do not happen in the middle of the sky. The critical phases are takeoff and landing, close to the ground, at lower speeds, with wings and gear reconfiguring. If a serious problem occurs here, the plane is too low for a parachute to be effective. A standard parachute needs a few hundred feet to open properly. During takeoff or final approach, you simply do not have that height or time. Modern aircraft are built with redundancy. Critical systems have backups: engines, electrics, hydraulics, navigation, all with multiple layers. A catastrophic failure taking down all systems at once is almost unheard of. Planes are designed to keep flying even when things go wrong. When emergencies happen, the goal is a controlled landing. Pilots train relentlessly. Engine failures, fires, malfunctions. Cabin crew train to evacuate everyone in 90 seconds or less, using only half the exits. This system saves lives. Imagine opening your car door and stepping out at 70 miles per hour. The wind force would be immense. Now multiply that speed by 8. A commercial jet cruises at 500 to 600 miles per hour, about 800 to 970 kilometers per hour. The wind blast at that speed can cause instant, serious injury or death. Even if you could open a door, nearly impossible due to cabin pressure. Stepping out would be like hitting a solid wall. This is a major physical barrier. Planes fly at 30 to 40,000 feet, 9 to 12 kilometers, to fly above weather and in thinner, more efficient air. At that height, the air is often below -50 Fahrenheit, -45 Celsius. Without specialized thermal gear, you'd get severe frostbite in seconds. More importantly, there isn't enough oxygen. A person would lose consciousness in less than a minute due to hypoxia, without a personal oxygen supply. Commercial airliners aren't designed for people to jump out of. Doors are plug doors, larger than the hole they fill, and can't be opened when pressurized. To allow jumps, you'd need a special rear ramp like a military transport, a massive redesign adding weight and complexity. Parachutes work within speed and altitude limits. At jet crews, a canopy could shred, an opening shock could severely injure a jumper. Skydivers exit near 120 miles per hour and deploy at lower altitude after slowing. Commercial flight conditions are completely wrong for a standard parachute jump. Let's think about the practical side of putting parachutes on a plane. One system weighs about 20 to 40 pounds, 9 to 18 kilograms. Multiply by passengers. An A320 with 180 people adds 3,600 to 7,200 pounds. A large jet like a 747 with 400 people could add up to 16,000 pounds. All that extra weight burns more fuel, raises ticket prices, and increases environmental impact. A reliable parachute costs several $1,000s. Equipping fleets would run into hundreds of millions. Parachutes need regular inspection and repacking by certified professionals, typically every 6 months, adding significant ongoing maintenance costs passed on to passengers. Now picture the chaos. An emergency is high stress, confusing, frightening. Imagine 200 panicked people finding, fitting, and lining up with bulky packs in a narrow aisle. A trained skydiver might gear up in a minute or two. A terrified passenger would take much longer, if they could do it at all. Wasting precious time, pilots need to solve the problem and land. Flight attendants must maintain order and guide passengers to safety. Turning them into parachute instructors mid-crisis would distract from critical tasks, fighting a fire, delivering first aid, preparing for an emergency landing, replacing clear procedures with chaos likely to fail. On January 15, 2009, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 took off from LaGuardia Airport, New York City. Shortly after takeoff, the Airbus A320 struck a flock of birds, causing both engines to fail. The plane was at about 2,800 feet, over one of the most densely populated cities in the world. A catastrophic failure. If ever there was a moment to wish for a parachute, this was it. But the altitude was too low and time too short. A parachute would have been a useless accessory. The pilots, Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles, remained calm and focused, flying a very large glider. Using training and checklists, they realized they couldn't reach an airport. Captain Sullenberger chose the Hudson River, an incredibly risky maneuver rarely practiced in reality. The cabin crew performed perfectly. Brace, brace, heads down, stay down. That preparation was vital. The impact was severe, but the aircraft remained intact. Passengers evacuated via overwing exits and slide rafts. Calm instructions prevented panic on the cold river. All 155 people survived. It wasn't parachutes. It was a well-designed aircraft, highly skilled pilots, well-trained crew, and safety systems working exactly as intended. Beyond technical issues, adding parachutes raises ethical questions. If an emergency happens, who could use a parachute? A parachute jump requires physical ability and mental calm. This excludes many. Small children, infants, elderly passengers, people with disabilities, and those needing wheelchairs. They would not be able to put on the gear or make the jump safely by themselves. A system that protects only the young and fit is not fair. If there isn't time for everyone, who goes first? First come, first served? A desperate scramble? Cooperation turns into conflict, causing more harm. Would crews make impossible choices about who gets a chance to live? No one should bear that moral burden. If an airline provided parachutes, they'd assume huge liability if passengers were injured or killed by incorrect fit, hitting the aircraft on exit, or malfunctions. Lawsuits would be enormous. It's safer, legally and physically, to keep passengers seated and belted, trusting pilots to land. Clear, defensible standards of care already exist. Evidence suggests a parachute policy would create chaos, more injuries, and fewer survivors. Collective procedures guided by crew have a far higher chance of success, promoting cooperation over panic. The ethical choice is the system that saves the most lives, emergency landings, and ground evacuations. The current model. So, let's put all the pieces together. Passengers using parachutes to escape a failing plane is a myth, born from movies and misunderstanding. The reality, parachutes are not practical or safe for commercial travel. The reasons are clear and fact-based. First, the environment at cruise. High speed, extreme cold, lack of oxygen, makes a jump unsurvivable for an untrained person without specialized gear. The plane isn't designed for mid-flight exits. Second, logistics don't work. Parachutes are heavy, expensive, take space, increase fuel burn and fares, and require constant maintenance. There's not enough time or room to distribute and teach hundreds of panicked passengers. Chaos would delay pilots working to save the aircraft. An orderly evacuation on the ground is faster and more effective. Third, aviation is exceptionally safe. Redundant design, rigorous pilot training, proven procedures. Most incidents happen too low for parachutes to help. Real stories like the Hudson prove the system works. In conclusion, the absence of parachutes on commercial flights is not a failure of safety. It is a feature of it. The final takeaway is simple and reassuring. The reason you do not have a parachute under your seat is because better, more realistic safety systems already protect you. These systems work. Air travel safety is the result of decades of learning, engineering, and training. The plane is designed to keep flying. The pilots are trained to land it, even in an emergency. The crew is trained to get you out safely once on the ground. This plan is the most effective one. So what can you do? Forget parachutes. Pay attention to the safety briefing. Read the safety card. Know your nearest exits. Keep your seatbelt fastened whenever seated. Your best protection against unexpected turbulence. In the unlikely event of an emergency, listen to flight attendants and follow immediately. Trust the professionals and the systems they operate. Your pilots have thousands of hours and train for worst-case scenarios. Cabin crew aren't just there to serve drinks. They're certified safety professionals. Your cooperation is a key part of the safety equation. Leave luggage behind, move quickly, help others when instructed. These acts matter far more than a parachute you don't know how to use. Next time you fly, relax. Flying is extraordinarily safe. The real safety device is the entire ecosystem of modern aviation: robust aircraft, expert crews, and coordinated procedures. Your safest bet is to sit back, buckle up, and trust the plan.